Have you ever wondered if dyslexia might be impacting your child's learning? Dyslexia, a common learning disability affecting 5 to 10% of the population, can have profound impacts on reading, spelling, and writing. Well, in today's episode, we're diving into a heartfelt conversation with a mother and her son about their personal journey with dyslexia, the challenges they faced, and the remarkable book they created as a result. Join us as we explore the intricacies of dyslexia through the lens of a family's perspective. Our guests will share their insights and strategies that have made a difference in their lives. Welcome to the Autism Family Resource Podcast. We provide guidance and insights for parenting neurodivergent children. From Pure Hearts Therapy, I'm your host, Brian Keene. On today's show, we're delighted to have Lynn and Jonathan Greenberg. Lynn is not just Jonathan's mom, she's also his incredible writing partner in the recently published book, Robby the Dyslexic Taxi. But here's the twist. Jonathan, a college student, was born with dyslexia. Despite the challenges, he discovered a deep love for writing, reading, and drawing. Together with his mom, they've not only overcome obstacles, but also turned them into opportunities. In this heartwarming tale, they've created Robby the Dyslexic Taxi, a book that goes beyond words and pictures. It's a celebration of determination, creativity, and the power of collaboration. Welcome to the show, Lynn and John. Do me a favor and go ahead and introduce your guys.
Hi, I'm John. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
And I'm his mom, Lynn, and the co-author of the children's book we wrote together.
Awesome. And in the children's book, it's called Robby the Dyslexic Taxi. And I haven't got a chance to read it, unfortunately, but I think it will be pretty awesome based on the little bit of conversation we had. So I think a good starting point for us today is just to give us a little bit of background on you guys and kind of your story growing up.
Sure, yeah, no, we'd love to do that. So when I was younger, I couldn't read or write due to my having dyslexia. There was a lot of people during that time who kind of looked down on me for not being able to read. Some of them were more upfront with how they went about going to say that, saying I was a boy or I learned slowly or lots of rather hurtful things. And so that really sort of separated me from the rest of the school that I was at. And it wasn't until I got tested that I found out I was dyslexic, and that was around when I was 7-ish. And
A little bit younger, yeah.
maybe a little younger than that. And once I learned that, I will admit I was kind of relieved because it was nice to know that I was not what people were saying I was. And so after that, we tried staying in the public school system for a little while, but it just didn't work out. So I went to a school specifically for children with dyslexia called Windward. And I was pretty quickly remediated once I was in the proper environment. So after that, I went to college and got a BA in art. And after that, I'm now trying to work towards a graduate degree in art as well, so an MFA in painting, so that I can keep doing these books that I so enjoy doing.
I love that. It's so interesting kind of what you said. It's like you're having something's not going right? And you're just immediately getting labeled as the bad kid or the kid who doesn't put in effort or whatever it might be. Kind of, how did that feel? What was your feelings going on then?
Well, honestly, it was not good. And in a lot of those sort of, I wouldn't say scars, but they left an impression on me. And that's something that sort of sticks with you for the rest of your life. I really took a lot of those words to heart, and shaking those opinions of me was not easy, and while I've gotten much better at it, they'll always be with me to some degree.
That's tough. That's tough. I think a lot of people who are in maybe your situation have to deal with that, and that's unfortunate. From someone who hasn't had dyslexia, or maybe a parent who may suspect their child may have dyslexia. Kind of in your own perspective, what does that look like for you? Like maybe how you read versus maybe how someone else may read or interpret words.
Well, it's sort of almost hard to describe in some respects because I know how other people do it, but it's sort of like trying to explain to someone who hasn't seen a color almost. From what I'm able to understand and what I can tell, it's sort of more of a visual learning style. And I am more, as I mentioned, visual. So I see words differently. They're backwards sometimes. I have some trouble sounding out vowels and sort of the consonants. It's just a very different way about going to learn. When I was at Windward, we definitely did a lot more of that visual style where we had to learn to write in cursive because cursive is supposedly more, it activates parts of your brain that I guess you would say regular writing do not do. And we also had to do air writing, which was sort of, you had to stick your arm out and sort of air sketch, I guess would be the phrase, what the letter you were doing looked like. It's vital to be able to focus on a single student also, so the classes were smaller. So it like even things like left and right can be difficult. It's almost like things are just sort of swapped in your brain.
Interesting. So when you got to Windward, it's almost like they gave you new tools to be able to read and understand words and letters better. But that's interesting. Air writing helped you out, smaller classes, and in cursive, that's very interesting. So, Mom, Lynn, go ahead and give me your perspective, kind of going back on one, how did you find Windward? And then two, kind of what was your experience like in all this?
John is my youngest of four, and everyone has a different learning style, but he was not, learning as often younger children do. He didn't want to watch Sesame Street or sing the ABC song or as he got a little older, he could tell me every Thomas the Tank Engine's name, but he couldn't tell me that Thomas started with the letter T. And I in my gut knew that something was off. And as John said, people would say, he's a boy, he's young, he's slow, I knew that wasn't true. I just knew in my heart that that wasn't true, not just as a, prejudiced mom, but I knew that that wasn't accurate. And so I started trying to understand what was going on. I didn't know what dyslexia was. And I have a good friend who's a pediatrician. I started talking to her. I started reading things, and the school was not helpful at all. And unfortunately, and also, we're talking 20 years ago. I hope things have improved somewhat, but back then they were just labeling him in a negative way and not trying to understand that he needed to learn differently. So I found someone who would test him, and sure enough, he was classic dyslexic. And I needed to understand what that meant. I knew from the testing that he was super smart, but that he was going to need how to learn to read differently. And I didn't know what that would mean. And I was finding that the school, even the learning specialists, weren't able to help him. And I started investigating what else we might be able to do. And this school, the Windward School, came up in my research as a very prominent school for this. And they only take kids who follow the profile of intelligent and have a language-based learning issue. And most of them are dyslexic. And so it was a gift finding the school. But then it was a family decision, as to whether for John to go, because it's not close to my house and I have 3 other children. So we made a family decision, and everyone was on board, and we decided, I would take him. There was no bus, and we ate a lot of peanut butter and jelly, and we just made it work because, it was a private school, and the whole family made that decision and were supportive. And so for me and for John, that's how the story went. And he went there for from when he was 7 in second grade until he was in 6th grade. some children stay longer, but John was able to read and write at that point beautifully. So he went on to a different school.
Definitely props to you, Lynn, for one, doing your due diligence and doing all your research, which I feel like most parents, that's kind of like the number one, like, what can I find? What can I get my hands on?
Yeah.
And then number two, as a family, I think that's huge. You guys made a big sacrifice to be able to make that work. And obviously, not everyone can do it, but just being able to do it is huge. And I think it's made a difference, right? And I just love the fact that now, John, you're in college and you have this book out and you're doing amazing things. So let's go ahead and jump into your book and kind of tell us what it is, what it's about, who's it for, who should pick it up.
I think it'll probably be backwards, but we wrote a children's book, Robby the Dyslexic Taxi and the Airport Adventure. And it happened because John was, during COVID, people were trying to find activities, and John was home from college. And as an art major, it's very hard to do art virtually. So, he was trying to do his work. And at this time, I was also reading children's books to my grandchildren on, FaceTime. And we started to talk about, why don't we try to write a children's book? And the story grew from there. And they always say, write what you know. So we thought, let's write about dyslexia in some form. And how would that look? And we decided that, a car that couldn't read the signs, how would that car navigate? And, would it be confused with left and right? And how would this car go about getting his passengers to where they needed to be? And that's how the story grew. And we co-wrote it, and John did the beautiful illustrations. And that's how we gave birth to Robby the Dyslexic Taxi.
Yeah, let's just say when you're in college and a figure drawing course asks you to write an essay instead of draw something, that I was struggling to find something to fill those hours with. And so while some people took up baking, we decided to give this book thing a shot, and I don't think we regret it.
That's cool. I love it. And I love that you guys collaborate on that. And also both is kind of like you're using your strength and skill set. You're like, okay, I'm great with art and I got this down. And mom's like, okay, I'm great with doing this part in the writing. And it is a great team effort. That's awesome.
Yeah,
She
been
handles
fun.
the business side of things, which is very helpful for someone who is not as business minded as me.
And I'm a very retired lawyer, so I like using words and reading. So yeah, the combination was perfect.
And would you say this book is perfect for a parent, for a child who maybe has dyslexia? Both? Who should pick this up, and what could they get out of this, do you think?
Well, I'd say both, because we wanted to write this for children with this learning difference, so we could show them that just because they are different does not mean they are not going to be able to accomplish things in the future, and they shouldn't, feel inferior in any way. I know for a fact having something like this when I was a kid would have been a godsend. And we wanted it for parents who to show them that they too, their child can get through this as long as they have support. So we wanted it to start conversations, to give people sort of this insight that they might not otherwise have. And even people without dyslexia, we wanted it to be at least enjoyable, and it sparks, as I mentioned before, conversations. I know for a fact my mom went to a book reading in New York, and a bunch of the students, none of them were dyslexic, but they still all had a lot of interesting questions regarding it. And so that sort of eye-opening attitude is something we really wanted to start.
In the book, we have Robby, who's the dyslexic taxi, but he works at the Creative Cab Company, where he has friends with other learning differences and the support of everyone there. It is a supportive group, and we wanted to convey that as well, that support is important. And we also thought that there isn't anything out there that reaches the community with learning differences. And we wanted children and adults to realize it's a community that's important. And we've had so much, positive feedback that we're actually going to write a series of other cars at the Creative Cab Company that have other learning differences and show how everyone can support each other. That's where we've been with Robby. And as John said, the support we've gotten from people with dyslexia and those who don't have it has been really amazing. It sparked a lot of conversation.
That sounds fun. Definitely, I want to see the rest of those as those come out. So I look forward to seeing the rest of the
Thank you.
series. So your book sounds awesome. It's gonna what I got out of that definitely is just spark conversation. Definitely talks about support. Definitely talks about the importance of community, and I love that. That's too cool.
Thank you.
Tell me, kind of any final thoughts if you're and you guys could both take a go at this. If you got a message for any parents or individuals out there who maybe are in your position, any words for them that you would like to give them?
Well, I'd say that the most important thing a parent of a child with dyslexia, or frankly any learning difference, is to give them support. I remember there were a lot of nights where I would come in and see my mom reading a book about dyslexia, like a how to or more information. And just that knowing that they were spending the time, that they wanted to help, that they were going to give you support was incredibly important. Because as I mentioned, when you get labeled a bunch of mostly negative things, well, that can be very negative. And having this knowledge that you have a support system, that people care for you, that you're not alone in this, really can make or break anything. And for me, it really allowed me to gain the confidence to keep on working on this. And so, as for kids with a learning difference, you may be different, but that's not a bad thing. For me, it's been a superpower because it allowed me to focus on drawing in art, and because of that, I was able to make a book. And so we all are special in our own way, and I really want to show children that they too don't have to look at what they have as a negative, but just a net positive instead.
And I would say to parents, unfortunately, even now, there's absolutely more conversation about learning differences, but I think people don't necessarily understand. And, it's hard for teachers. There are, 20, 30 kids in their classroom, and they can't focus on every child. Even some of the learning specialists have so many different kinds of differences that they're focused on. It's hard to necessarily understand each one to the best of their ability. And so there's a tendency to be negative about a difference instead of understanding that they can just teach differently. So I think it's really, really important for parents to not just listen to the educators. I think it's really important to listen to their child, what the child is saying, and not just the words, but also the visual sort of nonverbal cues. Maybe they're acting out in school, and why? Why are they doing that? Try to understand what the child is saying and not saying, and go with your gut and be supportive, and just keep looking to see what you can do to help your child learn and grow. And as John said, for him, it was, not just learning how to read, but being accepted and using his superpowers to draw and to reach other people. And from all this, one of the kindest, most empathetic people I know I'm embarrassing him, but,
It's a mom's job.
he is that person. And his creativity has grown from all of it. And I think that's really important. Everyone is special. So I think people just need to accept that and then help their child in whatever way they can.
I love those messages. That's a great ending right there. But before we finish off, go ahead and let people know where to find this book or reach out to you guys to get more information.
So we have the book. You can buy it on Amazon. We have on social media, and we have a website. It's called The Creative Cab Company, or creativecabcompany.com. We have a lot of information on the website. You can buy the book there as well if you want. And we would love people to reach out if they have questions on social media or on the website. We'd love to hear from people, and we hope that it sparks many conversations that we'd be happy to be a part of.
Awesome. And I will link everything you guys have gave me in the show notes. And it was a pleasure having both of you on the show, Lynn and John. And I look forward to seeing more of your books.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate being here and speaking with you. It's been a really wonderful opportunity.
Thank you.
A heartfelt thank you goes out to Lynn and John for coming onto the show and sharing your stories and experiences. This episode has left a profound impact, highlighting the importance of listening to and empowering our children. Jonathan's account of how negative labels brought him down underscores the transformative power of constant support, particularly from his mother, instilling courage and leaving a lasting impact. In a world where our kids are quickly labeled negatively, without resources or opportunities to truly thrive, Jonathan's perspective on dyslexia as a superpower is truly inspiring. His positive mindset has propelled him to college, proving skeptics wrong along the way. If your child is facing challenges at school, home, or in the community, I urge you to seek out resources that can make a meaningful difference. Don't rely solely on the opinions of just one person. If you're unsure where to begin, consider a consultation call. I offer consultations to help guide you in the right direction. Visit Peer Hearts Therapy website and click on the Book a Consultation Call link if you are interested. The resources shared in this show are designed to empower your family to thrive. I firmly believe that community fosters growth and learning, so let's connect. Follow me on the Peer Hearts Therapy social media pages, where you can reach out directly to me with any questions. Find the links and my contact information in the show notes. Just scroll down on your podcast player or visit peerheartstherapy.com for more details. Thanks for listening to the Autism Family Resource Podcast. Subscribe now for more resources to empower your family to thrive and live your best lives. See you next time.